Ooh, there's so many yummy vegetarian options out there. You could try like lentil soup, veggie burgers, tofu stir fry. The possibilities are endless. Just listen to that for a second. Timor, Mortis, Conturbat. Those are some seriously powerful words, right? And what's wild is they were written over 500 years ago, but they still have this weight to them. So you gotta wonder, who wrote them and how do they still echo so strongly through the centuries? Well, the man behind those words was William Dunbar, a Scottish poet from way back at the turn of the 16th century. And that one line, that translation you see, "The fear of death disturbs me," that's really our key. It's our gateway into understanding the many, many different worlds of this absolutely incredible artist. So today we're going to meet William Dunbar, one of Scotland's absolute greatest poets, or as they called them, a Makar. We're going to peel back the layers and explore all the different faces he shows us in his work. You know, you've got the court insider, the super sharp critic, the philosophical dreamer, and of course, that profound, haunting voice of mortality we just heard. All right, so here's our game plan for exploring his world. We'll start with Dunbar, the political poet, then get into his satirical side, explore him as an allegorical dreamer, and then we'll circle all the way back to that haunting voice of mortality. So I mentioned that word Makar. You might be wondering, what exactly is that? Well, it's the Scots word for a poet, sure, but it means so much more. Think of it like a poet laureate, someone with real status, a ton of skill, and that's exactly what Dunbar was. He held this role in the court of King James IV, which put him smack dab in the center of all the power and culture in Scotland at the time. Okay, so let's jump into that first world, Dunbar, the political poet. How did he use his words to get by in the world of the court, the crown, and the whole country? See, his job wasn't just to write pretty verses to entertain people. No, it was way bigger than that. He was there to comment on, and sometimes even help shape, the biggest events of his day. And being the official court poet meant that his work often had a really clear political goal. I mean, a perfect example of this is a poem he wrote back in 1503. It's called The Thrissil and the Rois, which, you guessed it, means the thistle and the rose. Now, this was not just some pretty poem about flowers in a garden. Not at all. It was a hugely powerful political statement. It was all about celebrating the marriage between King James IV of Scotland, symbolized by the tough, rugged Thistle, and Margaret Tudor of England, who was represented by the beautiful, elegant Rose. And here's where it gets really clever. In the poem, Dunbar has Dame Nature herself come down and bless the union. By doing that, he just completely elevates the whole thing. It stops being just a political deal and becomes this grand symbol of hope for peace between two countries that, let's be honest, had been rivals for a long time. But don't go thinking Dunbar was just some flatterer writing nice things for the king. No way. He had this incredibly sharp, critical, and honestly, often hilarious side to him. He was absolutely not afraid to use his poetic genius to call out the moral problems he saw all around him. And that brings us to one of his most amazing works, The Dance of the Seven Deadly Sins. In this poem, Dunbar basically takes us on a wild, guided tour of hell. It is grotesque, it's chaotic, it's darkly hilarious, and the main dancers, well, they're the sins themselves. So what he does is he gives each of these sins a body and a personality, describing them in this wild, over-the-top detail. And that's the real genius of it, you see. He's not just using this crazy satirical imagery for shock value. He's holding up a mirror to society, to critique human weakness and all the moral issues he saw everywhere. Okay, so we've seen Dunbar, the political operator and the social critic, always looking outward at the world. But his poetry also looked inward. He did this brilliant job of exploring the inner world of our minds, basically mapping out the internal battles we all fight. And the way he did this was through a very popular style back then, called the dream vision. It's pretty much what it sounds like. The storyteller falls asleep and has a dream, but the dream isn't just a random story. It's got a much deeper symbolic meaning. And Dunbar's absolute masterpiece in this genre is a poem called The Golden Targe. So what we're really seeing here is a story about an internal battle that, let's face it, we all go through. You've got the mind, right? It's being defended by reason, which holds up this golden shield, or a golden targe. But then it gets attacked by the goddess of love and all these forces of sensual pleasure. And in the end, reason's shield gets broken. It's this timeless story about the fight between our logical brain and our physical desires. And that brings us full circle, right back to those haunting words from the very beginning. We've seen Dunbar, the political poet, the sharp-witted critic, and the deep-thinking dreamer. But now, we're going to meet him at his most profound, his most personal, confronting the one thing that connects every single one of us. His masterpiece on this topic is called Lament for the Makars, and it's just this incredibly powerful meditation on death. What he does in the poem is list all these other poets, guys who came before him, guys who are writing at the same time, who have died. It's his way of reflecting on just how fragile and fleeting life and even fame really are. And weaving through the entire poem again and again is that Latin refrain, Timor mortis conturbat me. The fear of death disturbs me. It acts like this constant, somber drumbeat, a deeply, deeply human chorus that just admits to the terror and the certainty of our own end. And this is why Dunbar's work is still so powerful today. It's his incredible range. Think about it. One minute, he's writing a beautiful poem to celebrate a royal wedding. The next, he's crafting this bizarre, grotesque satire of hell. And then he pens one of the most moving poems about death ever written. He really, truly was a poet of many, many worlds. So it kind of leaves you with this one big question, right? How does a poet's voice do that? How does it manage to echo for over 500 years? Well, maybe the answer is he spoke about the things that never, ever change. Things like politics and power, human foolishness, the battles we fight inside our own heads, and of course, that great universal fear of the end.